Now is the time that we just take a few moments to be in the silence. And so if you can just close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. And just relax. Maybe take a deep breath in and then just exhale. Maybe one more deep breath in. And then just let it go. Just tell your body to relax. It's done an amazing job bringing you here. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your hips, wiggle your shoulders and your hands. Just tell your body to relax. It's amazing what will happen if you just talk to your body. Just let it know you're grateful for it, but it's time to relax. Maybe one more deep breath in, and just let it go. That's it. And as you begin to relax, do the same thing with your mind. It's taken all this time and energy to get you here. It's really done a great job. Thank it. Thank you, mind. Thank you for bringing me here. You're awesome. But now I just want to relax for a minute. I just want to spend a few moments chilling, relaxing. So thank you, but now just relax. And slowly start to feel the presence. Whatever that feels like for you. Some people feel like it's a warm blanket that just slowly comes over them. Some people just feel this connection. Some people will actually call it God, or spirit, or oneness. And just connecting with that. And as you start to relax just a little bit more, going a little bit deeper, you really can relax. You really can trust. You really can open yourself up to the experience of just pure being. There's nowhere to go other than right here, right now. I want you to imagine that while you're in this space, make it cozy. It's kind of your home away from home. Whatever that looks like for you. Maybe you're sitting on a beach. Maybe you're sitting in the woods. Maybe you're sitting in your favorite chair. Maybe you're sitting in a grand cathedral. Make it yours. This is your holy space. Whatever brings you joy, whatever brings you peace. Just ease into it. And then imagine, if you will, just a voice. Maybe you can hear it, and it's communicating with you in whatever makes you feel comfortable. and it's just sharing something with you. One thought. What would that one thought be? That one idea that you came here for, that the source wanted to share with you this morning? And now listen. And maybe there's something else to be shared with you. And if there is, great. If not, that's okay too. You're just relaxing, being so grateful for this moment. And it's in this moment where we can just finally be grateful and so thankful for this connection, for this oneness. And now what I want you to do is just remember the space. Remember the sacred place. Remember that you can come here anytime. It's merely a thought away. Anytime that you want it. It's your gift that you just gave yourself. Remember that. This is just for you. If you'd like to say thank you or anything else in the space, feel free. And then as you slowly start to come back into your body. Start to wiggle your toes, your fingers, and your hands. Slowly come back. Feel yourself back into the room, back in your chair. And then when you're ready to open your eyes, welcome back. So, we're going to have a little chat. So this month we're going to talk about forgiveness. And I thought before I got into the usual, well, let's sit here and listen to Mike talk, it'd be great to have a little bit of conversation. And so forgiveness is a big topic. It's really kind of fun. I've actually talked to a few people about what exactly forgiveness is and all kinds of things. And what I find fascinating about it is I didn't get one answer, right? So it's kind of all different across the board. And so what I thought would be really, really fun is just to have a conversation. Do we have a mic? Do we have a mic we can use? Awesome. Can you fire that baby up? So what I'd like to do is just open it up for a minute or two and ask some questions and see what kind of answers we get. So I don't know, guys. I don't know, family. I don't know, community. What do we think forgiveness is? Raise your hand. Charles? You guys didn't think you were going to be quizzed this morning, did you?
Self-acceptance.
Oh, beautiful. Charles says self-acceptance. I love that. Awesome. Anybody else? Yeah.
letting go of a story.
Ooh, stories. Being a coach, a life coach, I appreciate the stories and the power of them. Yes.
Accepting others as they are.
Accepting others as they are. I love it. Any other thoughts? There's no rights or no wrongs, guys. It's just whatever you think it means.
Once we can truly forgive ourselves and realize that we're perfect, it's a lot easier to forgive others.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so I have a question. Oh, do we have somebody else that wanted to say something? I got other questions. I got a few questions. So that's a great question. When do we forgive? Again, there's no rights or no wrongs. I'm just curious.
Sometimes we need to process whatever the situation is first, and then we can forgive.
Yeah, so in other words, sometimes it may take a little bit of time. So in other words, we can't quite wrap our mind around forgiveness in the moment. Yeah, that's a really beautiful point. Thank you.
And then to follow up with that, always. Ourselves and others, always.
Always and ourselves and others. Jim Nyman's in the back raising his hands. Over and over again.
And over.
Over and over. Cool. Awesome. So we have an idea of what it is. Here's a question for you. Why? Why should we forgive?
To free ourselves from it.
From what?
Whatever the thing we're forgiving,
Mm-hmm.
so that it doesn't burden us any longer.
Burden. That's so funny. You know what I heard? Burn.
That too.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That too, right? Cool. Oh, we got hands. Charles in the back.
So we can move on.
So we can move on. Love it. Jen? Tony? Ray didn't realize he's going to get a workout in this morning. Thank you, Ray. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's when we're in a state of non-forgiveness, it's like we pollute our energy. And it colors everything.
Yeah. It pollutes our energy and it colors everything. I love that. Thank you, Tony.
I think I forgive when I want to feel better.
Well, what an interesting concept. You actually made a decision to feel better. Pay attention to that one, guys. That's a good one. Thank you. Anybody else? Any other comments or thoughts about forgiveness? I just wanted to get a feel for where we're at in terms of community. Jim's in the back.
You know, they've all been great suggestions, but it's actually doing it.
Oh, you mean you actually have to do it? Well, you just ruined all the fun. My God, it's so easy not to forgive, isn't it? Okay, cool. I think, one more. Okay.
I just want to say that there's fear sometimes that it's going to minimize whatever the situation was. And you don't want to minimize. If I was aggrieved some way, I don't want that minimized.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to get to a point where I can process it and just let it go.
Yeah, but the only way that you're going to be able to do that is to acknowledge what's going on inside of you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
because what happens is, okay, this is not where I was planning on going, but it's here. So, I mean, because what happens is when it comes to forgiveness, everyone says, well, just forgive. And it's like, yeah, but you're missing a huge component of it. And that huge component of it is acknowledging the reality of what's going on inside of you. Because when we don't acknowledge what's going on inside of us, we can't let it go. You know, Eckhart Tolle has a saying that says whatever goes in pain has to come out in pain. And so what that means is that whenever something happens, forgiveness, there's this an emotional thing that happens, and it's inside of us. And the worst thing that you could do is not to acknowledge that. It's not to acknowledge that. So it is. So that's very beautiful. Cool.
A lot of negative energy.
It can be. Yeah, absolutely. That's part of it. Absolutely, that's part of it. But again, remember, I just go back to it came in, so it's got to come out. The only way it's going to come out is if you acknowledge it. That's the only way that baby's coming out. And oh yeah, this little piece, feel it. Feel it. Don't stuff it. You got to feel it. Cool. All right, Ray, you can sit down. Everybody give Ray a hand. Cool. So I want to mention something about forgiveness and tell you that if you guys could help me in forgiveness, because I'm struggling with it today, and especially when it comes to technology. It's just, I'm waking up going, man, is Mercury in retrograde or what? Because, I mean, nothing is working. So normally what happens, and I want to acknowledge the singers today, you could see they're struggling a little bit. See that baby right there? That's what we call a cheater's screen. And a cheater screen allows us to look out here and not have to worry about what's going on up there. Well, guess what? Today, that ain't working. So that's why what happened. So, bear with us as we figure that out. But it also, in terms of me today, my notes, guess where they're at? Up there. So I hope to make it not too obnoxious, but occasionally I'm going to glance up there because I don't remember every single thing that I thought I was going to say, right? So anyways, here's the bottom line is I study forgiveness and understand it, and just understand there's no right, there's no wrong, there's no good, there's no bad, it's just forgiveness and your understanding of it. And what I do understand is that depending where you're at on your journey, on your spiritual path, is dependent on how you understand it. So I've heard very, very simple understandings of forgiveness, which are very beautiful, and I've heard very profound understandings of forgiveness, which are very beautiful. They're all beautiful. It just depends on where you're at. For me, in my journey, what it means is one of the most powerful tools to use to bring you back into alignment with your divinity. That's what forgiveness is for me. It's a tool. It's something that I can use, just like there's other tools that we talk about here at Unity. Oh, I don't know, like meditation, like prayer, like other things. It's a tool, but it has to be used. It has to be used. One of the greatest people that ever showed us the example of forgiveness was Martin Luther King. What did Martin Luther King have to say about forgiveness? It's not an occasional act. It's a constant attitude. Who are some other spiritual leaders, my spiritual heroes? Charles Fillmore. What Fillmore have to say about forgiveness? Here is a mental treatment guaranteed to cure every ill that flesh is heir to. Sit for a half hour every night and mentally forgive everyone against whom you have any ill will or antipathy. A half hour every night. Every night. Forgive. The only thing I wish he would have added to that is not just forgive everyone, but forgive yourself too. Right? Another spiritual hero, Jesus. What did he have to say? So they're hanging out. He's having a conversation with Paul. And all of a sudden, he goes, you guys should be forgiving. And Paul goes, it's the Romans, though, really? And he goes, how often should we forgive? And what did he say? What was the answer? 7 times 70, right? Okay, so wait a minute. Let me get this right. Jesus Christ said that I should forgive 490 times. Do you really think he meant forgive 490 times? No. What did he mean? A lot. A lot. So here's the thing with forgiveness, is that I feel that what happens in communities, in business, in states, in governments, in the world, that this whole forgiveness thing is just way underplayed, and that it's given a lot of lip service. Sounds good. Well, let's just forgive. Okay. Well, I really think what it comes down to is people just don't really understand how it works. Because when you do it right, forgiveness is a very, very beautiful process. And when you're done, it leaves you connected back into alignment with your divinity. That's what the purpose of forgiveness is. That's what it does. Because ultimately what happens with forgiveness, and I think what all the great masters knew about it, are the two gifts that come along when you forgive. Forgiveness is about healing. It's about healing. Ultimately, that's what you're doing when you forgive, is you're healing. The second thing is, it's freedom. When we don't forgive, and guys, there's no judgment. Look, I have no idea, and I'm not sitting up there and telling everybody in this room that for every single situation that you should be able to just forgive and get on down the road. I mean, people have gone through some pretty horrific things. And I am not here to tell you who and what you should be forgiving. That's not my job. The only thing that I can do is share some thoughts with you and hopefully stir some things inside of you which help you move forward. And what I do know is that when I forgive, and like you, I've had my moments in my life where there's been some pretty, excuse my French, shitty things that have happened. And it's not been easy to move forward. It hasn't. And it took me a while. Back to Mary Kay's point, I couldn't necessarily do it right in the moment. But there came a point in time where I realized that in order for me to move forward and to get on with my life, what I needed to do was forgive. I needed to forgive. And once I was able to do that in my own way, in my own time, then all of a sudden things started changing for me. Why? Because forgiveness is healing. Ultimately, forgiveness is about freedom. And so here's what's kind of cool about it. And I thought for a minute that we would talk about what forgiveness means from a metaphysical standpoint. So whether you've been here a long time or whether you've been here a short time, everything Unity is done, the message, the primary message is based on metaphysics. That's what Charles and Myrtle were studying when they started putting some of the stuff together, was metaphysics. And so metaphysically, what forgiveness means is to give up the false. And I read that, and I'm like, what on God's green earth does that mean? Right? And then all of a sudden, I started thinking about it, and as I started thinking about it, all of a sudden it said, what do I got to give up when I forgive? Okay, so now you got me curious. I gave up shame, blame, anger, rage, attack, and hate. That's what I thought of. Am I missing anything? I know I am. Guilt, awesome, thank you. Guilt's a great one. Sure. Guilt, anything else? Wounded? Pain, love it. I'm sorry. A feeling of wounded. Okay, cool. Could be, yeah. Yeah, sit on my high horse and boom, 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 boom. Yeah, I love it. Being a victim. That ties back into the story, right? Yeah, that's good, really good. Yeah. Judgment is a great one. Hold on. Failure. Fear, beautiful. Yeah. Wow, you guys kind of do get this, don't you? This is awesome. Anything else? No. So you're going to give stuff up. So now I understood. It's like, wow, that really makes a lot of sense. Because if I take all of that I'm giving up Think about this for a minute, right? I want you to process it that. We got that. We got everything you guys just said. If I were to give all of it up, what am I left with? Yeah. All of that stuff. For me, what I came down to when I really thought about this, peace. Peace. So metaphysically, what it's telling me is that when I forgive, if I do it right, then all of a sudden I get to let go of all of the garbage, basically, the stuff that's holding me back, the stuckness, the stories, everything else that's going on, and guess what I get left with? Peace. It's not a bad gig, if that's important to you. Maybe it's not. It is for me. And I think all the masters and the greats that came before us that shared the message of forgiveness, that's what they were getting to, peace. And it's not just peace here, but it's peace everywhere we look. I mean, if you look around this country, and if you look around this world, I don't know about you, but I think we need a little bit more peace. And the only way we're going to get there, in my opinion, it sure on God's green earth is not going to be done through some politician, to the best of my understanding. I think it's going to happen when enough people decide that enough is enough, that we want peace. So, how many people have been there, right? So it's just hysterical. I'm driving down the road the other day in the middle of the frickin' 20 below, 30 below temperatures, and I'm driving down Breton Road, and there's nobody with it. I mean, there's no one on the roads. Nobody, right? Driving down the road, and I'm in the left-hand lane, not the turn lane, but the left-hand lane, because there's really only about a lane and a half, if that, right? Have you guys seen a few of those roads, right? And all of a sudden, I see this car coming up from behind me, and I mean, this car is hauling in the right-hand lane, or I should say half a lane, and all of a sudden, I notice they're coming up, and they're going to go by me. And I'm like, oh, okay. Now remember, it's 20 below zero. The roads are garbage, and it's terrible. And all of a sudden, this person goes to go by me, only they don't. And actually what they do is the person sits right next to me. And I'm not kidding you, we're about 6 inches apart in those driving conditions. What do you think I'm thinking? I can't tell you what I'm thinking because it wasn't very nice. But I had to laugh at myself because isn't that the way that forgiveness works sometimes, right? Isn't that what happens is that we have the stuff that happens and all of a sudden we get triggered and it's like, oh my God, do you have to drive? Really, there's no one within a quarter of a mile. Is it necessary for you to be 6 inches from my car? And I just started thinking about it, and the question, which to me is one of the parts of forgiveness that I'm a big fan of, is to ask myself this question. Do you want to be happy, or do you want to be right? Right? Because happiness has nothing to do with being right. Nothing. It could potentially, but most of the time, it's got nothing to do with being right. In fact, often it doesn't. But we think, my gosh, if I'm right, if this person wasn't right next to me, why do they got to be driving right next to me? This is so stupid. And it's like, Mike, what do you want? Do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? Yeah, you can sit there and argue that this person shouldn't be driving right next to you, or you could slow down and get away from the person and be happy. What do you want? What do you want? And it really comes down to, what is it that you're wanting? What are you wanting to experience? Are you wanting to experience rightness? You can, no judgment. Or do you want to be happy? I just think it's funny. So, speaking of which, if there was somebody who understood the difference between being happy or right, there is no greater example of it than this gentleman, Nelson Mandela. He was locked up for over 20 years because he opposed apartheid and was basically resistant to it, and they threw him in jail for it for 20 years. And after he got out, He would not condemn the people that put him in jail. He would not do it. And this is what he said. Because somebody asked him why. Why won't you talk about them? Why won't you say how nasty and evil and rotten they were? And he said, because as I walked out of the door towards a gate that would lead me to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I would still be in prison. He knew it. He knew that he would be in prison if he didn't let it go. Here's another great quote. To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was you. I love it. Beautiful. Says the exact same thing, right? I want to take just a minute and talk about what it isn't, because there is a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to forgiveness. And so, what isn't it? Doesn't mean that there's no accountability. I got an interesting email the other day where there was a dialogue going back and forth, and somebody thought that my understanding was is that there shouldn't be jails, there shouldn't be prisons, there shouldn't be this, there shouldn't be that. I don't remember anywhere in the New Testament reading about Jesus saying, yeah, shut down all the prisons, let everybody go free. I don't know. Maybe someone could tell me if I missed it, but I didn't see it there. It's not that there isn't accountability. There is accountability when it comes to forgiveness. Forget. No one said you had to forget what happened. No one. That's not necessarily what forgiveness is. Some people think that you need to participate in something we don't want or something that we don't like. So if I forgive, then I got to go fill in the blank. Whatever it is. No. No one said you got to do that. Nobody said that. If I forgive somebody, do I got to become their best friends? What are you thinking? Seriously, no, not at all. Does that mean if I forgive that I got to be a doormat? No. So there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to forgiveness, and I think what happens is it's really easy to throw this thing out there and think that, well, all of this is what forgiveness means. That is certainly not my interpretation of it, and nor is it actually a lot of people that I study. So this is my best crack at it. What else doesn't it mean? Any other thoughts? What it doesn't mean? Okay, cool. Forgiveness for what? So this is kind of a fun conversation, right? So what I want to talk about is what I would consider to be the standard Christian way of looking, and other religions, way of looking at, well, what are we forgiving? What is that? And so I want to talk about that. Sin. So let's talk about that word. It makes me cringe to even hear that word. Honestly, being in unity for 40 years, it's one thing. I don't even remember the last time I said it. When I started writing this thing down, I was like, oh my, what is that? But I want to talk about it. So traditional Christianity, and don't forget, I used to be and was a Bible thumper. I used to be able to quote this stuff like the back of my hand when I was young, right? A violation, an error, a mistake. You missed the mark, and if you do a lot of it, where are you going? Hell. I think we create enough hell down here on our own. Quite frankly, I don't think we need somewhere else to go after for all of eternity, right? So that's traditional Christianity, the way they look at it. Metaphysically, again, unity. What does it mean? What does sin mean? A departure from the law of our being. What? So in other words, you mean I just drifted away from what my true connection with my divinity is? Yeah. And that I'm not wrong, and I'm not evil, and I'm not bad, and I'm not a horrible person, and I didn't start off this lifetime in original sin? Correct. Yeah. That's it. And so, if we have sin, then obviously something has to be done, right? I mean, how do we take care of this grave injustice that we've just done, right? And so, again, there's this thing called repentance. Traditional Christianity, an admission to God of sorrow of the past, sinned and resolved to be good in the future. Sounds really good, doesn't it? Sounds great. Maybe. Maybe not. Metaphysically, what do we say? To make a reversal of mind and heart in the direction of the divine. Do you see where there's just a little bit of difference between the two? One is like bad, 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 wrong, wrong, wrong. And one is like, oh, I get it. I just got out of alignment with my divinity for a minute. And the most important thing for me to do right now is to get back into alignment with my divinity. That's the most important thing for me to do. That's it. So really it boils down to, it's a two-step process. One, we recognize that we've departed from the law of our being. We got out of alignment with our divinity. That's all we did. It's just a recognition. Yeah, probably screwed that one up a little bit. Just got out of alignment. Not beating yourself up, not making yourself everything else that goes along with it. And then make a reversal of mind and heart in the direction of the divine. Sounds easy, right? Right? It's really easy, right? I don't see anybody going, yeah, Mike, it's really easy. No, everyone's going like, yeah, right. Yeah, we know. We know. Gandhi, what did he say about it? The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. He knew how hard it was to forgive. No one ever said it was going to be easy. Nobody. And I think that's just an honest conversation to have for just a second in terms of forgiveness as we're looking at it for this month, and this is a thing that we're going to be diving into. So, number one, acknowledge to yourself that as we go through this month together as a family, as a community, and we're talking about forgiveness, it's not easy. Again, there's people in this room that have had some pretty major tragedies in their life. It's not always easy. Sometimes it takes some space, sometimes it takes some time, sometimes it just takes a minute. And a guitar or piano, right? And if you use it, you get better at it. If you don't use it or you weren't taught it, then you got to learn it first of all, and then you got to start practicing it. So it's just like any other tool that you can think of. It takes practice and you got to use it. That's how forgiveness works. Self-forgiveness can be the most difficult. Raise of hands. How many agree with that one? Yeah, pretty much everybody. Yeah, why? Well, again, I'm just going to mention that really depending on how you were brought up and raised, that can be a very, very, very difficult thing to do. If you were brought up believing that you were pretty useless, not worth anything, that was my story. That's what I was told. It's not easy. It's not easy to get to the point to where you can look in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself, to tell yourself that you accept yourself, to say that no matter what, I understand that I'm doing the best that I can. It takes a lot to do that. That is not easy to do if you were brought up in an environment and you weren't taught how to do it. In fact, you were taught just the opposite. It's not an easy thing to do, right? So, for this month, what are we doing? Or for this week? So we're going to be doing forgiveness for the entire month. I'm going to be talking about it next week. And the first thing that we're going to do is, I'm not going to go into the process of forgiveness because there's plenty of them. We're going to talk about a few of those processes because there's some really beautiful ones out there. But it's a process. And we're going to talk about that. But the first thing I want to do is everybody in here is getting a homework assignment. And yes, I will be checking up on you. If you don't do it, oh, that's right, I'm supposed to be about forgiveness. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start off with, and what I want you to start paying attention to, and what I would really love you to do, is to start making a list of every time you go into judgment and you're not able to forgive yourself. And you guys, this can be the most difficult thing to do because it happens, I guarantee you, for most of us, more than we ever would imagine. It's crazy how much we judge ourselves. and how much we don't forgive ourselves. It's crazy. So, the assignment for the week is to basically get a piece of paper or pieces of paper or volumes of paper, right? And to start making a list of when you're not able to forgive yourself. That would be a really cool thing to do, right? And then just hold on to it. Because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding to that list as the month goes on. And at the end of the month, we're actually going to have a forgiveness ceremony here. And so one of the things I want you guys to think about is, I wonder if there's somebody in my life who maybe needs some help learning how to forgive. And maybe I could invite them, even if it's for the last thing. Because I'm telling you, that service is going to be powerful. It is going to change lives. Because when you do it right, that's what happens. So please, if there's anybody else you can think of that you think that might help, even if you just bring them to that service, it's going to be rocking. There's going to be stuff happening. Because, when it comes to forgiveness and we talk about all this stuff, and I can finally not have to worry about what I'm looking at, ultimately what we believe here in this church is that we're all divine. And that the only reason that that's not happening, the only reason that's not your expression or your experience, that you're not having this incredible, amazing time in life and you struggle and things happen, is because somewhere along the line somebody told you were less than. And instead of walking around and acknowledging that divinity in each and every one of us, what we did is we bought a line of crap that's a mile long. We haven't even, not only individually, but collectively, as a consciousness on this planet. But here's the thing, I think we're starting to wake up. I don't think it, I know it. There's a lot, don't buy the news, all the garbage they're pouring on the news telling you how evil and all this other stuff that's going on. You, each and every one of you, are divine children. You're perfect, you're whole, you're complete, just as you sit here. You're beautiful. Right here, right now. There's nothing stopping that except for us telling ourselves that for some reason we've missed the mark. And to me, in my opinion, that's the greatest sin of them all. Forgetting who we are and then buying somebody else's story and forgetting to turn off our cell phone at church. And with that, I want to share something with you that I thought was just so beautiful. It's something that something we watched this morning, just as a little taste to truly remember. I hope what this leaves you with, is just an understanding of how just truly incredible you are. Jim?